Could we start off, please, with just explaining, what you did as a kid growing up with your brothers and how you got into biking and how that, kind of translated into you becoming in the mountain bike industry?
Yeah, I think it's quite interesting that even as a young person, when you are doing something for fun, something you absolutely love to do, which was, well, in my case, when I was 11 and 12, my mom remarried and my stepfather was into dirt bikes and he used to take us dirt bike riding. My mom had a Suzuki 90 that I would ride and I loved it. And then in 1971, I saw the movie premiere of On Any Sunday. And now that movie changed my life because we saw the kids in the movie riding their little bicycles, and BMX did not exist, like not as a name, it didn't exist then. And I was inspired somehow because of my love for the motorcycles. And two things. After seeing that movie, I said, right, I want to race in the Elsinore Grand Prix. That was one thing. And then I went home and I thought, okay, I'm going to make a track. There's two vacant lots down the street. I lived in Seal Beach, California. And I'm going to make a little track and put on little races. And, you couldn't go buy a BMX bike. Remember, this is in the pregnancy, not even the infancy of BMX. And so I would coerce my brothers to sometimes come and help me, but virtually the little track, I built all the jumps and dug the holes and made the flags and the paper plate number boards and things and put on these races for a period of months. And I was 13, I was 14 when I did that. And
Incredible.
you can see there's a clip of that. It's called Kathy Sessler, A Lesson in History. Nigel, when you were staying at my house I think it's probably been 2 decades now, you brought Mike Rose over and Alex Rankin. And as when any bike people are around my house, hey, do you want to see my bicycle movie? Because at that time where I was doing the bicycle movie, for some reason, my dad's 8mm movie camera. And I would take movies of this bicycle racing. And so I have about 20 minutes of original footage from that time frame. And it's been featured in Joe Kid on a Stingray and in a Schwinn commercial, different things. It's quite historic footage, but you can see it. Mike Rose put it on. It's called like A Lesson in History. And then somebody's put it on YouTube. So you can put in Kathy Sessler, A Lesson in History, and you go see about 9 minutes of this video. And Alex Rankin put it on Sprung, I think it was Sprung 5, like as a bonus section.
Yeah.
Man, they loved it. They were in tears when I saw it. So basically, fast forward, over 50 years from that time, I'm still working with fun people in the dirt, in the rain, outdoors with cameras around. And in that essence, that passionate, what I love doing just naturally then has turned into a lifelong career. And then that was the history for the love of the bicycles in the dirt. And then I got on my first mountain bike in 1989, and then that changed that.
But how, obviously, you're just talking about this as if it's a normal thing, but at 13 years old, and obviously, I guess you were influenced with bikes and stuff with your dad and your brothers, but you've always been a girly, glamorous girl as well. You don't look like a typical tomboy, girl rolling around in the dirt like a lot of people, and I don't mean that in any disrespect to anybody, but how did you even get into knowing how to put a race on at 13 years old and building a track and stuff? Where did that come from?
I don't know. You just naturally like just there's a certain logistics about it, and somehow you get well, I think at the time because I enjoyed motocross, and then you see we would get the cycle news newspaper that was popular at the time, and you would see race results and you would see categories, expert, junior, whatever. So you had an idea of formatting for this kind of thing, just absorbing it. And that's funny you say about like girly girl or whatever. That's funny because you don't really perceive yourself. So that's interesting to hear your perspective of that, because I just feel like you, same as you, out there in the dirt, getting dirty, enjoying what we love to do. Whether it's male, female, it transcends all age, all gender when you're out there doing what you passionately love to do. So yeah, I'm happy to hear I wasn't don't look like a typical tomboy, but I tell you what, I sure feel like one.
Well, yeah, I mean, I know you well, and you are, but yeah, it's just I think that's I think maybe nowadays with all the social media and Instagram and everything, I feel like there's more girls doing the extreme sports and also, looking glamorous and stuff. And I think, you were maybe one of the first ones to do that without needing to do it for Instagram and stuff. And maybe you started the trend.
Maybe I did. I mean, if I started doing, well, let's see, I had a lot of firsts in my life. Let's see, I was the first Maxis girl. I was the first intense pro rider.
Yeah,
I was the first at a lot of things. And being like, it's interesting to have a perspective of being older now and to look back because you don't know what a life-changing moment might be or what part of history you might be witnessing, such as the birth of BMX. Like I got to witness that, and then I got to witness the birth of mountain biking,
yeah,
and I've gotten to see so many things be birthed and grow. And yeah, the women these days are absolutely incredible, but all athletes these days, these incredible like Jackson Goldstone, Gracie Hemstreet, these kids that have grown up with these sports already so developed
yeah,
and the skills and the equipment already so developed to take the abilities of like the tricks and the what they're doing and the jumps and all this. It's already so elevated when they're just being born into it
yeah.
that the skill level is like absolutely incredible. And um, girls, boys, everybody is enjoying the sport for their sport, and it is remarkable what they're doing. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean it's nuts now. I mean, I guess like, back in the day, before I was doing it, and when you were starting out on the journey of racing mountain bikes, it was, most people that got into mountain bikes, I guess, had come either from a motorcycle background or a BMX background or even a road cycling background. And, with mountain bikes were just mountain bikes at first, weren't they? You did cross country on them, you did downhill on them, you did trials on them, you did jumping on them. And, like you'll know that the early bikes were not that great, and they broke a lot and stuff. And obviously then, which we can talk about, you meeting Jeff Stieber at Intense, and he started making, as well as other people, bikes that were capable of what the riders from all these different disciplines were starting to do, bringing all these different skill sets into mountain biking. And then obviously now moving on to now, like you said, that the skills of the riders, both male and female, is just incredible. It's just gone so far beyond how it was back in the early mountain bike days, hasn't it?
Yeah, and it's interesting too because you think back and you think, what limits did the athletes go to in their performances? And they went all the way, to their absolute human limits. And you look back and you think about like say Tomac coming down Kamikaze or Jimmy Deaton or something, and they're absolutely going to the maximum. But you look back now and like 5-year-old could do that. It's weird.
It is, but I also reckon that, if you put Jackson Goldstone or Loic Bruni or Greg, maybe not Greg because he's been at it for so long, but some of these new guys onto one of those bikes that
There
Tomac,
you go. Put them back on the equipment. Yeah, then let's see what they could do. They would have a little rougher time.
especially
Yeah,
the speeds they were going down Kamikaze. Um,
yeah, yeah.
but so from, growing up, at what age did you first jump into racing and competing? I mean, did you ever do BMX racing as a youngster or not?
No, no, I was there at the infancy and never had anything to do with BMX. I did go race the Lake Elsinore Grand Prix. I raced in the last original Lake Elsinore Grand Prix in 1971.
Wow,
And
what bike did you use for that?
the Suzuki 90. Yeah, I was
Amazing, amazing.
14, something like this. Or no, it was 1972, the Elsinore Grand Prix. Anyway, yeah, a dear friend of mine, Mike Bell, he went on to be a Supercross star.
Yeah,
And I only knew him later in my teens, but I learned that he had also raced in the Elsinore Grand Prix. And I'm like, yeah, we only learned this as adults because we remain friends. Um, I said, well, how did you do? And he's like, well, my dad pulled me off after 2 laps because it was too dangerous. I'm like, oh, I went 6 laps. So I actually have beaten Supercross star Mike Bell in a motorcycle
no
race.
way, that's amazing.
Just
Brilliant.
random tidbit of information there. But I at 14, like how was I going to go motocross racing? It was hard. And so I didn't do that. And then I did,
That one what you wanted to do, really?
yeah, that's what I wanted to do. And then as a teenager in high school, I didn't go to football games or anything like that. I went to motocross races in Southern California. There was a lot. You could go to Carlsbad, Saddleback, Ascot, Irwindale, all this stuff. So that was my kind of, that thrill-seeking kind of adventure style. And so then so then Mike Bell started doing triathlons. So I did triathlons in my early 20s. And
Mhm.
then Mike Bell said like, oh, I'm doing this thing, Desert to the Sea. It's this mountain bike race. It's like this 100-mile mountain bike race. And so my husband Chuck and I went to watch where they were coming through, like sort of near Lake Elsinore, like crossing. And so they're crossing this road and they're taking off on a road. And this was probably like 1988 or something. And I thought that doesn't look fun. And then eventually, I had bought an old mountain bike from a friend for Chuck. And one day, where we live in Marietta, one day I'm like, it's like, seriously, if anybody had told me it's like riding motorcycles, I would have been on it immediately. But to
Yeah.
me, it just looked like some boring thing riding across the street. And anyway, I took this old bike and I rode it up in the hills. And then as soon as I turned around and started coming down and descending, I'm like, oh my God, this is the funnest thing I've ever done in my life. And I came home and I just said to my husband, this is what I'm doing now. I'm racing mountain bikes now. And this was 1989.
Oh, wait. That's
Yeah, because it reminded me, it was so fun.
yeah.
And then, yeah, so my first race was in 1989. It was a cross country race. Some friends took me to it and they said, like, don't race beginner, your levels, like, so I raced the sport class and I was second. And
Brilliant.
then, yeah, the rest is history. I was particularly better at downhilling from the motorcycle background. And then I had 2 young children too. So, and like I don't have the physiology to be a cross country racer, but the skill level and that be more of like a sprinter type athletic build. Yeah, I started racing downhill and my first world championships was in 1992 in Bromont, Canada. And as a silver medalist there. I remember there was an Italian woman there, and uh, I liked her bike. Like by this time, I had front suspension, which is quite progressive. I had Action Tech fork. It was 2¼ inches of travel,
And what
and I
bike?
thought that was pretty sweet. And I looked at this Italian girl. She's got something called rear suspension, front and rear suspension. We're like, wow, I wonder if that'll ever take off. So
Yeah.
yeah, it did.
And
Yes,
then
I've seen a lot of changes, but
and
yeah.
what was that bike? Can you remember what bike that was? The hard
Yeah, I was on a Kurtlow. Yeah. So basically it was a little cross country bike. Yeah, I still have that frame. And then the next year, 93 is when I met Jeff and got on intense. Yeah.
Okay, so how tell us a bit about how that came about because that's, be
Yeah. So I live in Marietta, which is near Temecula. And at that time, Jeff lived in Lake Elsinore and was starting his cottage business. And there was a cross country race out in Temecula. And we had kind of noticed Jeff and the bikes or whatever, and then we're driving down the freeway, and he's driving by with a bike on his car, like, "Pull over, like, we need to talk." And, we start a conversation, and, I said, "You know, I need a bike for 93, and, hey, would you sponsor me?" And he said, Let me," we exchanged addresses. He came over to my house, and he's like, "Yeah, I'll sponsor you with a frame." And, then he says, "I'll have a bike for you. I'll come back in a week." And he came back a week later with my intense spider.
A week,
And
that's not a bad turnaround for a bike, is
oh,
it?
well,
Homemade bike.
I like to joke and say that might be the only intense frame ever delivered on time, but that wouldn't really be fair. But and that's how that happened. And then, went on to, be, like, national veteran champion, gold, silver, bronze medalist in the veteran women category at world champs, and, yeah,
Amazing.
three-time national champ. And then at the same time, like, you would race your age group at the nationals and world champs, but then you race pro everywhere else. So my best pro finish was in 94 at Mammoth Kamikaze, where I was 10th. So mind you, I was like, you know, 30, God knows, 37,
Going.
38, whatever, racing against Missy Jovi and
Yeah,
whatnot. And I had 2 small kids. So I
yeah.
called myself one fast mother. And
And you had a sticker and everything with that on, didn't you? Did Troy Lee make
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, Troy Lee made me a sticker, and yeah, found a way to market myself. But just it was all about having fun, just following the drive and the passion that I had,
yeah,
to go out and, like, why would a mother of 2, happily married think like, "Okay, I'm gonna travel around the world and hurl my body down the mountain at breakneck speeds?" And, like, I don't know, you're right. I mean, to me, it seems absolutely normal, but maybe it's not. I think it's normal, it's just not average.
correct. And yeah, I think a lot of mothers that are, in that situation might think it's crazy, but for me and you and other like-minded people, it's just what you do, isn't it? You don't really think
Yeah,
about
it's
it
just
too
what
much,
you do.
what you want to do, and you only
Yeah,
live once here, so you've got to do some stuff that you want to do, haven't you?
absolutely. Yeah, you gotta go after it. And then you've gotta look at those things too. It's like, if I can't do this, like, I wanna do this so bad, like, nothing's gonna stand in my way. Those are the passions you wanna follow, when you have those drives, follow those drives.
Yeah.
Yeah.